Hi folks, welcome back to the Tabletop's Edge and our last Blitzkrieg playthrough. Last time out, we took a look at the American situation at the beginning of the game, and today we're going to take a peek on the other side of the hill and look at the German starting position, as well as discuss their initial plans, what they hope to achieve and how they're going to do that. So just like with the Americans, we'll go ahead and start at the northern end of the line and work our way to the south. Now the Germans have all or part of 3 armies poised for the big assault westwards. And starting at the north end of the map here, you see we have the 326th Volksgrenadier Division located in the Monschau Forest area. And to be more accurate, we have part of the 326th Volksgrenadier, because the rest of it is just off to the map to the north here. The 326th has been defending against the 2nd Infantry Division's attacks into the west wall here. And given the fact that it's not a very good unit, action rating of 2, and the fact that we won't get all of the formation on map, at least for quite some time, there's really not a lot to be expected of this particular formation, other than hopefully tie down some American forces up here and prevent them from redeploying to a more strategically important sector. Now, moving around to the left of the 326th, we have the 277th Volksgrenadier Division located here. Again, this is another poor unit, as you can see, with action rating of 2. They do have a battalion of Hetzers assigned to support them, and hopefully that will be enough to allow them to attack through the front line here of the 99th. They're going to be aiming initially for the twin villages here, and ideally cutting this north-south road. If they can cut this road, which is the supply artery for the bulk of the 2nd Infantry Division up here, they could put them out of supply and really make things a lot easier for the main penetration, which is going to come a little further south. So we'll see how far the 277th gets. Again, you can't get your hopes up too high because of the low action rating with it. Now, to their left, however, we have the 12th Volksgrenadiers located down here close to the main east-west highway. This is, along with the 26th Volksgrenadier, the best infantry formation that the Germans have in the game. So we will expect this formation to do a lot of the heavy lifting when it comes to punching a hole here that will allow the Panzer divisions to drive on through. And you can see just to the south of the 12th Volksgrenadier, we have most of the 3rd Fallschirmjäger Division. Now, this is a very inexperienced unit and therefore has only an action rating of 2. The unit is probably going to be in the way more often than it will be able to accomplish anything useful for us. So we'll have to see how things play out with 3rd Fallschirmjäger, but again, we're not expecting much from them. Now, behind the frontline infantry formations, and really it's going to be the 12th, to a lesser extent the 3rd and the 277th, that are going to be tasked with breaking open a hole here through which the panzers can drive. And so located just to the east, behind the infantry, we have the 12th SS Hitler-Jugend Division, and then we have Kampfgruppe Piper and part of the 1st SS Panzer here. And we're going to have to decide which direction these formations are going to try to penetrate to the west. Now, there is an east-west road that runs from this broken overpass kind of to the west here. You can see it runs just along and to the south of the Elsenborn Ridge out to Malmedy, and then it continues to run along the Amblev River Valley. This is the path that Piper tried to take historically, and it does eventually bring you out here to the sudden death exit locations. It's the shortest path possible. So initially, you might be thinking, well, we'll try and run these. We'll break open a hole here, and we'll just shove these Panzer divisions right along this road as quickly as we can. The problem with that is just to the north here are a lot of American troops, and the Americans will be receiving a lot of reinforcements very early in the game from the north. And this road, as you can see, is not very far from the north edge of the map, which means that it's easy or easier for the Americans to interdict this road early in the game because they don't have that far to go. I'm not a big fan of this path, even though, like I said, it is the shortest distance-wise to getting the sudden death victory conditions. So if we don't decide to push through here out to the west this way, where can we go? You can see the road makes a turn here at Bullingen and heads on down into St. Vith. And then this is a major crossroads, as you can see, with all of these roads coming into the town here. St. Vith is probably the single most important hex on the game, if there were such a thing as a single hex. The sooner the Germans can clear this area out, the more options they have for heading westward. They can come back up to the north to Malmedy if they want, but just as importantly, they can proceed further west here to the Somme River. They can either cross that and continue out to Parker's Crossroads, and then either turn north and come up to the first of the exit victory locations there, or from Parker's Crossroads, they can continue to drive to the west and northwest and cross the Meuse. So there's an ability to keep constantly outflanking any line that the Americans are trying to form with their reinforcements coming in from the north. Also, from St. Vith, you can even drive to the southwest and head on out in the Bastogne area. Further west, we have the Ourthe River here, which is a fairly good-sized river obstacle, but it can be flanked around from the southern end by going through Bastogne. So before we get ahead of ourselves, we'll look at Bastogne when we take a look at the southern end of the German line. But for now, what I think we're going to try to do is the Germans initially are going to try to punch a hole, push these guys back, and I think we're going to try and make Saint-Vith the major objective early on and capture that no later than the 17th. And then at that point, we can evaluate how things are going and choose where we want to go from here, because we will have options here. Now, of course, we're not going to neglect the road up here, this northern route, as I call it. We're not going to neglect that, because we're going to want to form a protective shoulder to the penetration here to keep the American reinforcements away from our path to the west, where we're going to send 2nd and 9th SS. So moving back to our at start positions, we'll take a look a little further south of the 3rd Fallschirmjäger Division as we get into more of the central section of the front. Now, south of the 3rd Fallschirmjäger, we have the 18th Volksgrenadier, which is deployed on a fairly wide sector of the front. It is actually one of the better German formations, with the action rating 3 throughout most of the division. Their initial task is going to be the encirclement and destruction of the 106th Infantry Division here. So they are going to be tasked with clearing out basically the area to the southeast and east of St. Vith, while the 1st SS Panzer is likely to come down from the northeast. Once they've destroyed the 106th and gotten them out of the way, they'll be able to basically reassemble here in the St. Vith area, and then we can probably turn them to the north to help fill in the line against the reinforcing Americans, or continue to push them westward to help open up the advance for the Panzers. Now, continuing south along the line, just south of 18th Volksgrenadier, we come across the 62nd Volksgrenadier Division. This is not a very good division. It's action rating 2. However, it is the last of the formations that I sort of have assigned to the northern sector, if you will. The task of the 62nd is going to be to drive sort of west-northwestwards, if they can, capturing the bridge here over the Ore River, and then attacking St. Vith from the southeast. Again, it's not a big division. It's not a very high-quality division. You can see the action ratings of 2 here, but hopefully it will be able to accomplish that mission there. At the very least, it will be able to sort of seal off the southern end of any particular pocket we may be able to form of Americans in and around St. Vith. But hopefully there will be no pocket with St. Vith, because we will have cleared that by day 2. Now let's take a look and see what the southern half of the front holds for the Germans. And before we take a look at the southern half of the German lines, I just wanted to give you a quick look at the formation cards and kind of give you an idea of the status of the German formations on the northern half at start. You can see we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 of the formations are fresh, which is good, because that's going to enable them to remain sort of up-tempo for a little bit longer period of time, especially at the beginning when it's important. You can see here the 62nd and the 18th Volksgrenadiers both have red support. Everybody's got a fair amount of artillery support except for the 277th and 326th, which again are the units here on the far north end of the line. Now, it's interesting to note that 1st SS Panzer has been split, and historically they formed Kampfgruppe Piper from the 1st SS by basically giving him all of the division's tanks, which means Piper is going to be a fairly powerful formation, but it really kind of guts the offensive ability of the 1st SS Panzer Division. This is almost more of an infantry brigade now at this point. So these two formations, however, are considered buddies, so we don't have to worry about them mixing or coordinating. And we'll see how it plays out, or whether the Germans might have been a little better off to keep this 1st SS Panzer Division intact as a single formation, rather than like they did with 12th SS, rather than forming Kampfgruppe Piper. So with that, let's take a look at the southern end. Now, sandwiched between the 62nd Volksgrenadier Division and the 560th Volksgrenadier Division is one of the 3 Panzer divisions initially assigned to the southern sector, and that is the 116th Panzer Division right in this area here. What they're going to do, they're going to attack into the 112th Infantry Regiment's sector, try and drive up this road and grab this bridge at Berg Royland. And for our purposes, this is the single most important bridge that the Germans will need in this game. So it is absolutely vital that this bridge is captured intact. Now, once they get across this bridge here over the Ore with this intact, they'll be able to come out to the highway here, at which point they will turn north, and that will allow them to sweep into St. Vith from the south. They also can turn from here and proceed southwest towards Bastogne, or even westwards to the Somme River over here. So 116th is going to have an important mission early on. They should have hopefully no problem pushing these 2 battalions out of the way. They will be attacking right along the boundary, actually, between the 106th in the north here and the 28th Division to the south, which should help, or rather should hinder, the Americans' ability to respond to the 116th. So initial mission, make sure they grab the bridge here at Berg Royland, and then from there they will exploit, probably turning north and going towards St. Vith based on our plan of capturing that as quickly as possible. And from there, they'll turn west or southwest. Now, next to them is the 560th Volksgrenadier Division. This is actually one of the better Volksgrenadier divisions with an action rating of 3. They will, again, be tasked with kind of supporting the 116th's thrust this way and really sort of mopping up the 112th and pushing as far west as they can to support, again, the advance of the panzers. Now, continuing south along the lines, we come to the second of the Panzer divisions allocated to the southern sector, and that is the 2nd Panzer Division. They're gathered here around Dossburg. There is a bridge over the Our here, which will not be in place until the 17th of December. So the vehicles of the Panzer Division will be pretty much confined to the eastern bank until turn 2. However, on the 16th, they will be infiltrating their infantry units across the river and trying to get them to push westward and take out some of the American pickets along Skyline Drive here. The initial objective for 2nd Panzer Division is Clairvaux. They're going to want to take Clairvaux and clear the 110th Regiment off of the highway here running to the west. And then from Clairvaux, they're going to continue their westward drive and head all the way down to Bastogne out here. Now, Bastogne being an intermediate objective, they ideally will reach this no later than the 18th of December. And from there, they can continue pushing out to the west against any potential opposition, or they can turn north and help assist the 116th Panzer if the Americans are starting to fill in and build a line in the central part of the front. And paired up with the 2nd Panzer Division, we have the 26th Volksgrenadier. This is the other one of the good German infantry divisions in the game. They have an action rating 4. Likewise, they will be crossing the Our River on the 16th and attacking the 28th Infantry Division that is sort of spread out in this sector in a very thin defensive line. They will try to assist the 2nd Panzer as it pushes west. Now, one of the issues is a lack of good east-west roads in really the whole map, but particularly this sector. The last thing we want to do is have the 26th get tied up with the 2nd Panzer Division. So ideally, we'll keep them on separate roads. Now, the 2nd Panzer Division is probably going to end up getting assigned this highway here, the N12. 26th Volksgrenadier is likely to head south of Clairvaux on the left flank of 2nd Panzer. There are plenty of tracks down here. They're not necessarily any good roads, but there are tracks which should allow them to continue out to Bastogne here and assist in the capture of Bastogne, where they will probably then go over to the defensive and act as a shield for the southern flank of the drive westward. Now you can see Panzer Lehr here behind the front line. The formation marker located on the HQ tells you that Lehr is actually done on the 16th. So I think historically they were considered the reserve for the Corps or maybe the 5th Panzer Army in this sector. So they will not actually be able to do anything on the first turn, which is okay because of the bridge situation. There's a bridge here which won't open till the 17th, as well as the Dossburg Bridge. So having them not be able to do anything on the 16th is really no big loss. They will get into action on the 17th. Now you can see with the powder blue units in the vicinity that we're now looking at the 5th Fallschirmjäger Division. This division is kind of a so-so division. They've got some regiments that only have an action rating of 2. However, they do have some 3 action rating units. And because of that, again, we're not going to expect too much out of these guys from an offensive standpoint. They should, however, just by sheer numbers, be able to come across the Our River here and take care of the 28th Division in this sector. We're going to have them push out to the southwest. Ideally, they'll be able to seize Diekirch and Edelbrook and then set up a defensive line along the Sauer River here to prevent any American drives coming in from the southern edge of the map. So a small offensive role for 5th Fallschirmjäger, which will then transition to almost a purely defensive role fairly shortly after the offensive gets underway. Now moving next to them, we have the 352nd Volksgrenadier Division. This is actually, again, like the 5th Fallschirmjäger, a decent, as far as German infantry formations go, division. They've got some action ratings of 3, some 2s. They, again, will continue to press on the left flank of the Fallschirmjäger unit there and try to again, either establish a defensive line here, or if things are going well, maybe even try to cross the Sauer here and maybe separate the eastern sector of the American lines down here from that further west. So we'll see what they're able to accomplish. And again, we're not anticipating a big offensive role for them, followed by a fairly swift transition to a defensive role. And then finally, we run into some of the 7th Army units here, 276th Volksgrenadier Division in this sector here. And then on the far left flank of the German line, we have the 212th Volksgrenadier Division. The 212th actually is a solid unit with an action rating of 3, facing off against the U.S. 4th Infantry Division. Now the 276th is only an action rating 2 formation, so they won't be quite as effective. There are numerous bridges over the Sauer River down here. However, a lot of them don't open up until late, as late as the 22nd of December. The first bridge to open up will be right here on turn 2. And basically, these divisions, their job will be to apply some pressure to the 4th Infantry Division and any American reinforcements that come up here. There is a victory point hex here at entry area F that they may try to press for, but essentially their role is going to be to try to draw in as many American units here from less critical sectors out to the west out here as possible, and then eventually to try to form a defensive line here when the inevitable American counterattacks come later in the game. I just want to give you a quick look at the formation cards for the formations on the southern half of the German front. You can see we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, we've got 5 fresh formations, and those are the 116th Panzer, the 560th Volksgrenadier, both of these in the central part of the lines, the 2nd Panzer, the Panzer Lehr, as well as the 26th Volksgrenadier are also fresh formations, which means we can hopefully they will keep that fresh fatigue status for as long as possible, which will give them an increased ability to get those second activations and press forward. Along the rest of the line, as we move further south, you see everybody else is a fatigue 0. These are our supporting infantry divisions. The 5th Fallschirmjäger does have some red support, which will be nice, as well as the 352nd and the 212th. So with red support, units are a little bit more capable on the offensive. So just because these are infantry divisions doesn't necessarily mean that they won't be able to attack, particularly given the numbers advantage that they're going to have in this part of the sector. Well, that's going to wrap up our look at the at-start German position. Hopefully now you have an idea of just what is deployed and where, and at least in general terms, what the initial plan is going to be for the breakthrough. We'll finish up by just kind of doing a quick comparison of the formation cards. You see here there are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 German formations on the southern half of the front compared to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 American formations. Now that doesn't sound like a very overwhelming number until you stop to realize that these 3 formations are regimental in size, as is the combat command and the combat command. There's only one formation of these 6 that represents an actual full-size division, and even that one only has about 1/3 of the division on hand. So really, you've got 9 German divisions facing the equivalent of 1 1/3 infantry divisions along with 2/3 of an armored division. So maybe 2 divisions worth about versus about 9 here. Now on the northern flank, it's a little bit better for the Americans, because you've got 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 formations, but these 2 formations are actually a single division. This is 1st SS and Kampfgruppe Piper. They're attacking into 1, 2, 3, 4, what will be 5 formations. However, of these 5 formations for the U.S., you do have 3 full-sized infantry divisions, one of which is quite good, and then you've got a regimental-sized cavalry group, and then about a third of a armored division here initially. So again, it's not a lot better for the Americans, but it is a little less of a force imbalance than you find in the southern sector. So next up, we will go ahead and take care of the opening part of December 16th, and then we'll dive right in with the first German activation. Thanks for watching today. Hope you enjoyed it. Stay tuned, and we'll see you next time.